What's up, everyone? How's it going? It is Modern Craftsman Monday. It's not often I get to say that. But today you have me and you have our guest. Nick was running late. We were going to rebook, and I was like, you know what? I want to go ahead with this. I want to get this done. So we'll have to get this guest back on some other time to record with Nick. But for me, it's just me having a conversation with Ryan Smith. You guys may know him as Roof Slayer on Instagram. He also has a website that is roofcutters.com if you want to order a roof. He sells and will pre-cut and ship a roof to you, to your framing contractor. We talk a little bit about that, this podcast, what that looks like, why you would hire somebody or pay a little bit of a premium to get that done by him. All checks out and makes sense to me. We get into his background a little bit. Can't believe Polly's barking during my intro. Get into his background a little bit, how he got into the industry, how he navigated the industry, and then conversation led to a bunch of struggles that he has with the industry and framing as a trade in general, and a lot of pushback he's gotten from builders that he works with, clients that he's worked with, that he feels he's often getting squeezed as the framing contractor, and why it's important to spend the money on a quality framing contractor and not waste their time and not burn bridges, and afford them the budget and the time to be able to execute the best that they can. And he's not trying to sell, some absolute supreme level product that nobody else can touch. He's looking to compete and turn over a job that's as close to perfect as framing needs to be, and he still struggles with that, which I'm sure a lot of you guys and girls can relate to. So give it a listen again. Ryan Smith, Roof Slayer. His website is roofcutters.com. I hope you guys all enjoy this. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is, I'm sure you guys have heard this before, maybe you haven't, but I am teaming up with the guys and girls over at the Contractors Coalition. So I am officially a part of that group. I'm sure that you all know that now consists of Brad Levitt, who is the president and founder of AFT out in the Scottsdale area of Arizona. Brad runs a pretty big building company, building large scale custom homes. He might do a little bit of light commercial, but his specialty is handling not the design, but the build and the execution of large scale custom homes. He has a fairly large company. So if you're the type of contractor who wants to learn from somebody, who has 40, 50 employees, larger, Brad's going to be your guy. He'll give you that perspective. Also, Morgan Molitor, who owns Construction to Style with her husband, Jamie. Morgan brings definitely the design and the feminine aspect, which we all need to this relationship. I feel like she and her team set up the hotels where we should stay, all of the graphics, hosting the party, all of the meals, the restaurants, everything that is going to make these contractor coalitions enjoyable. She has a huge part in, so she's a lot of the back end. But they do remodeling projects, they build new homes. She has her blog. Their website is huge. Again, Construction to Style. If you guys don't know her, you want to get into social media marketing. You want to understand how to work with vendors, establish these partnerships, grow your social media, attract people to your website. Morgan is like the entrepreneurial spirit behind all things regarding that. So if that's an interest to you, definitely check her out. She's going to be somebody at these coalition summits that you're going to want to get to know a little bit more. Nick is the other partner. You should all know Nick. He's the co-host of this podcast. He's like smaller than Brad, bigger than me, 10, 12 person team looking to do highly custom new builds. He does still do some renovation, but always ahead of the curve with design and building and looking to build stuff that nobody else is building. So if you're interested in that, this next coalition summit's actually going to be in Boston. It is September 27th through the 30th. You can go online and register at contractorscoalitionsummit.com. Again, September 27th through the 30th. We're going to be touring some of Nick's projects beforehand. So these events definitely limited availability. The idea is to create a really intimate, private, um, high-end white glove setting where it's like, hey, you're going to stay in a nice hotel, we're going to get nice food, you're going to be around other people with similar interests, you're going to be able to be open, transparent, build this rapport with these people, with the pre-events, touring the houses, and really like familiarize yourself with these people. And then we'll grab dinner, we'll hang out and get to know each other a little bit more before digging into the educational aspect of it. So by the time the educational aspect comes in, there's not 100 peers around you. It's a small, intimate group. You can be open. You can ask the questions that you may be afraid to ask if it were smaller groups of people. So it's with that regard, like we're really not looking to have a massive amount of people in these, included in these. It's really small. It's limited. I don't know the numbers on how many slots have sold out already, but this event will sell out. So if it's something that you're interested in, I would sign up sooner than later. It's not an inexpensive event, but if it's something that you want to amortize the cost, there's also an option for some marketing programs. There is an option for amortizing this through an installment plan. But I was a part of this last one. I went to go out and see it, and at first I wasn't sure if this is something that I wanted to do. And after being there and meeting everyone and experiencing what these three have put together, and the entire construction to style team, because there's a lot of people steamrolling behind this thing, I realize how valuable it is and what I can bring to the table, being the fourth piece of this, a smaller owner operator doing renovation projects, smaller projects, self-performing some, managing some, and like I'm this last piece of the puzzle that can really bring this really well-rounded vantage point and experience to the table for this. So again, if you are interested, hop online, contractorscoalitionsummit.com. This event will sell out. It's really cool, being a really nice, neat, new, chic hotel with some very serious vibes, really great meals, dinners out. You'll have to cover getting to the event, and then everything else will be included there. And you will really enjoy yourself. So check it out on contractorscoalitionsummit.com, and hopefully we will all see you there. And in the meantime, enjoy the podcast. And as always, I'd like to say thank you to our sponsors, Andersen Windows and Doors and Buildertrend. Without them, we'd be hard pressed to set the time aside to do this for all of you, for all of our listeners. So make sure that you check out their businesses, their websites, patronize them, check out their new products, their offerings. Again, they are a lot of the reason that we're able to do what we can do. So make sure that you are giving back to them as well. If you are aiming to elevate your projects with a standout feature, look no further than Andersen's folding out swing out doors. These impressive doors can span up to 48 feet wide and reach up to 10 feet tall, creating a grand entrance that's sure to impress. The top hung system ensures smooth and easy operation, making installation and daily use a breeze. Plus, for those working in coastal areas, Andersen offers stormwatch protection, providing peace of mind and durability against harsh weather conditions. Enhance your builds with elegance and functionality with Andersen's folding swing out doors. Visit Andersen's website today to discover more about this product. If you've been thinking about introducing software to your business, but you're worried your team might struggle to get started, here's what to do. You sign up for Buildertrend, the leading construction management software platform for premier builders, and you designate a champion. What's a Buildertrend champion, you may ask? It's a member of your team that ensures every employee has the tools and resources they need to master the platform. Buildertrend supports your champion, trains them, and encourages them so your company can onboard the software with ease under their guidance. When you have Buildertrend champion, you'll get the most out of your investment, speed up daily processes, and improve efficiency, give your team their best chance at reaching company goals, and drive business growth. Visit buildertrend.com/champion to sign up for Buildertrend and start your champion and your team on their journey to success. You at work today?
Yeah, I'm actually still at the shop. I threw a clean shirt on so I didn't look super terrible.
That's more than me most days. Most days I show up like right from work and have some nasty shirt on. I used to change for them. I'm just like, at this point, whatever. Most people are listening to it anyway, you know?
Right. Yeah.
How's it
Yeah, for
going up
sure.
there? Good?
Yeah, good. It's been cooler the last couple of days, like in the 60s. So, yeah, I
It
like
mu-
that, you know.
yeah. It must be like moving. It's in the 70s here today, and it's supposed to be 90 by the end of the week, but it was like chilly today. I was like, this is kind of nice.
Yeah, good
I,
working weather.
I had to shut the window at one point.
Yeah,
Um, so we met in person up at JLC. When was that?
that was March.
March.
Yep. Yep.
So we went out to dinner. It's funny for those who don't know you. Like I'm not small by any means, but you're a big guy. But I feel like you're like pretty soft spoken and pretty quiet.
I try.
Maybe
Yeah.
it was maybe it was like just in the setting that we were in. But I'm like, oh, we're going out with Ryan from Roof
Yeah.
Slayer. I was like, he's gonna be like this like big burly framer, and you were like very quiet and soft spoken. I was like, this is
Yeah.
not how I pictured this.
Yeah. Well, you get different versions of me. I think that was my first time teaching at JLC, so there was a lot of nerves, and I was just trying to keep myself prepared and ready for
Yeah.
the floor sessions and then the two classroom sessions. It went by so fast, but yeah, you
Yeah,
catch me on a Saturday night, it might be a little bit different.
different story. Because I like ran into you briefly afterwards, and I was like, all right, cool, we're gonna have him on the podcast. I want to follow up with him as to how that went. So there was only a couple people at dinner, but basically you were pretty apprehensive about your like teaching that you were doing. So you had hands-on teaching. I know Nick and I taught a couple things there, but they were more business related. We weren't like tool belt on teaching. But
Yeah.
what did you actually get hired to teach at JLC?
So the two classroom sessions was strictly roof framing. I brought some of my techniques and approaches to the students, and I had a full house for both classes, which was great. I was more concerned with how it would be received and what I'll call them students or the interested people that were there, how they were going to receive it, and it was great. After the first session, the second day was probably 80% repeats. So we
Nice.
had already developed a rapport, and so it was smooth. And then on the floor, me and Mike Slogat did a couple of roof framing demonstrations in
Oh,
regards
nice.
to
Just for like the
bastard
crowd.
hips. Yeah, so we had a pretty good crowd out there. We were
That's
with
cool.
Huber, so it was good.
Did you prefer one setting versus the other?
Um, no, no, I like both. I'm a hands-on person. I think most of us are in the
Yeah.
trades. Where you have to see it, feel it, touch it. That's how we kind of do everything. But classroom setting for me, it's nice because you're not actually cutting boards and carrying stuff, so you can actually kind of nerd out a little bit and get
Yeah.
down to the meat and potatoes of what it is that you're going to do with your saw. So I like
What
both.
what were you so apprehensive about? I know that you said like, and I remember speaking to you about it specifically, but like, I just, I always think it's funny that, I mean, it gets easier the more that I do it. And like, one of the questions I had for you is, why are you doing stuff like this? And like, for me, I think to myself, why am I doing this? And I sometimes don't know. Like, it gets easier the more I do it. And it's definitely not because of the money, because it's not that lucrative. But like, I do feel that it makes me like not necessarily a better business owner, but it like it makes me a more well-rounded individual having the capacity to be able to do that, especially when it's typically so far out of our comfort zone normally.
Yeah. Um, that's a great question and point. I think for me, it kind of all started a few years back. I was on vacation with my family, and I got this email from this company, MT Copeland. Some of you listeners are probably familiar. Maybe even you took my course, but they were going to create these videos, these series of videos for all the trades. So it was supposed to be a great way to dive in deep on a certain trade or topic, and then learn from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, not just a shop room teacher or something like that. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything against them, but more somebody with expertise. So that was huge. That happened. They showed up. They were here a week. It was crazy, very humbling. And I got through that, and I had a lot of positive feedback from the students that took it as well as the film crew. So, and then as the DM started rolling in more and more, I just kind of had that moment where I realized, like, hey, you should show or share at least what you do know
Yeah.
about this. There's enough interest there. And when I got to Instagram 4 or 5 years ago, I was kind of surprised. When I went on there, I thought I would see a lot more of kind of what I was doing, and I didn't. There's a lot of amazing framing carpenters and craftsmen, but what I was doing specifically, it seemed like I was kind of in a room by myself. So,
And what is that you're doing specifically that's different?
just with the roof cutting, the way I approach it and go about it. Most crews will measure and cut as they're building, and that's how I did it for years. But now we have the shop setting, so I just cut the roof. We throw it on a trailer, band it up, and we send it out to the site. So it's made the efficiency. I don't even know what percentage faster, but markedly higher. And then we took it even farther. And a year and a half ago, we started a different company, Roof Cutters Incorporated, and now we're attempting to cut and ship custom roof packages anywhere in the states. That's
Attempting.
Well, we're doing it, but it's it's a hard thing to market because
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell that to guys like me. So it's been
So
tricky,
like
but it's been good.
so what would be, say I was a roof framer and I wanted you to cut my roof, like what would be the benefit of me going that route versus just having my normal framers do it?
Time. Um, yeah. So I have three customers. I have the builder, who is all about you know the bottom dollar.
Yeah.
One, two, his schedule. Then I have the framers, who might not maybe are in over their head with the
Mhm.
project. They know they can build the house, but the roof is going to be challenging. And then I have the guys who really don't know enough of anything, and they're just kind of hoping and poking. So for me, when I have a framer interested and we start conversing, the money that they're going to spend on our cut and ship package, they're already spending on their labor if they're going to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Because the way we're doing it, it just brings every piece is literally cut. So if it takes you 3 weeks to put a roof together, I send you a package, you'll do it in 2 or 3 days. So the money you've spent with me, you would have already have spent on your overhead with your labor. So what you've really bought is time. So you get through that project quicker, you get on to the next one. So that's really the biggest benefit, other than obviously we take the stress and burden of figuring it all out and making sure that it works. But yeah,
So, like,
it's
how
fun.
close to top? So, I would assume that they're framing while you're building so that you can drop the roof at that point. Their walls are all up and they could just install the roof. But, like, how you're depending on them to have certain tolerances because you're building to the plan, right?
Correct. Yes. So dimensions have to be verified
Yeah.
before any calculating or cutting takes place. So that
So
that
you're
process,
having them completely done framing, then verifying everything in the field, and then, or are they actually? Are
no.
you actually coming from drawings?
We start with the drawings. I get a schedule when they're going to start, when the wall is poured, and when they expect to be to the roof. As soon as they start on the foundation, we verify dimensions then over
Okay,
the phone. So I'll print out the drawings, I'll mark them up, all the dimensions, and then I can get started while they're building the house. That
nice.
way, when they get ready or get to the point where they're ready to start stacking the roof, we already have it sitting there, banded for them.
Is that the same thing that you were doing if you were framing an entire house by yourself? Like you would have people rolling, framing all that stuff out, and you would start pre-cutting the roof.
Yep, yep. And
That's
that
cool.
all spawned out of necessity. We had three crews rolling for a while, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it was crazy. And we were getting behind, and it was always the roofs. These were big houses, and they were cut up. So I just really started to focus in on it and develop certain ideas and techniques, and then I'd try them, and we'd do 10 or 15 houses, and it would just get better and better to the point where we were doing almost a house a week for a couple of years, and I was the only one cutting the roof. So it was a crash course and get this figured out so it works. it
That's
was a,
nuts.
yeah, it was a lot of late nights in the garage over, it
What
was.
what you said you had a good experience with the whole empty Copeland thing, and that was like your introduction into teaching. Like I feel like you're getting thrown to the wolves.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt too. Well, it actually started with Fine Home Building. They'd reached
Yeah.
out on Instagram, and I did some articles there, same subject, and that was
Yep.
great. I got good feedback. I got a couple of negative things, which was fine. Um, and then after MT Copeland, it started to gain a little bit of momentum, and then the DMs on Instagram. It's crazy how many messages I get, but I figured, why not?
Just
People
people
are
like asking questions or telling you how much they enjoyed it.
a lot of both, but yeah,
Yeah.
I get a lot of framers they'll send me a message like, "This is my span. I have a broken hip." Literally hundreds of them. Like I could never sit down and actually answer everybody. I do the best I can
Yeah.
when I can, but yeah, it gets to be overwhelming.
I feel like you have a side business like in and of itself there. You could just be consulting these guys.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So we also do cut sheets with roof cutters, which if you don't want me to cut it and ship it to you, I could figure it all out and then send tail patterns in a notebook with all of the rafter lengths, and you can cut it yourself. So with that, there's more consulting because they actually have to cut the roof, which brings a
Yeah.
lot more questions. So both are
Do
pretty
you
good avenues, though, so far.
and like the success rate for when you're getting a roof drop that you've pre-cut, you still have to know it's not like a like even with a truss roof you have to know, but even more so with a stick built roof, you still have to understand what you're doing in order like somebody could still botch that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We
Um
for sure.
which like that would be the concern for me where I'm like, all right, I set you up for success here, but I still cannot guarantee success with this.
Right. So we try to vet the clients as much as possible, and that's difficult too because you'll have a guy, who'll tell you he's a 30-year veteran framer and he's done it all, and a lot of guys say that, and until you spend a couple hours working with them, and then you realize either they're not lying or they're full of shit. So
Yeah.
we've had that happen a couple of times where I'll send a list of how to stack the roof, and it's all labeled, every piece, all the geometry is marked up. It's literally like putting a puzzle together. You take hip A that gets installed to the ridge, all the jack rafters with an A go on that hip, and so on and so forth. And we've had a couple of people just totally disregard it and start cutting. And then they call and then they say, this isn't fitting. And then I come back in my little office. I say, okay, where are you on the roof? I pull out the plan. They tell me. And I say, is the valley 18 and 5/16 off the corner and go? And they're like, no, what do you mean? It's right on the corner. The valley's always go on the corner. I'm like, no, it's a bastard valley. That's all right there. All you had to
Yeah.
do was read. Then at that point, aside from me getting on an airplane, flying out there, and we go to the lumberyard, like there's not much I can do at that point. But
No.
I disclose all of that up front.
Yeah.
So that's really the best I can do.
Yeah. I mean, I still feel like that's way better. And if that person is having that much trouble with what you basically set them up with, I think it's probably going to be a shit show regardless.
And
Um,
yeah,
so I know I worked with MT Copeland a couple years ago too, and it was like I really enjoyed it. It wasn't the first thing that I've done. I think I would have been very overwhelmed if it was the first thing that I had done, just because it was a legit production, like TV
yeah,
show. How
yeah.
many people they had? It was in a studio. Like they brought in a crane
Hmm.
to film some of it. Like producer, director, gaffers, lighting, like full production.
Yeah.
But like they just let me roll with it. Like it was not very controlled. They were like, "Let us know what you need, and then we're basically just gonna film you." And that works well for me because I'm like, I can work and talk through what I'm doing at the same time. So it worked really well. But I think if that was the first time and I walked into that, I would have been like, "What the hell am I doing here?"
Oh yeah.
Like this, I shouldn't be here. But I really did enjoy that. I loved everyone that I worked with there. I still keep in touch with everyone. It was a really, really cool experience for me. And like you, it gave me so many ideas and so much confidence as far as like what I'm doing and what we have an opportunity to do within this industry that I
Hmm.
like didn't ever really
Yeah,
consider
for
before
sure.
that. And like how many people you actually can help with this stuff, which I thought was really neat. So, rewinding a little bit more than that, you're up near Buffalo, right?
Yep.
And how long have you been there?
Oh, 23 years.
Who
But,
the hell decides to be a framer in Buffalo unless like I mean you're working through the winter, right?
oh yeah. Yeah.
I feel like there's got to be better places to be a framer.
Oh, there's a million better ways to make money for sure. But you get used to it. I mean, I will say, I'm in my 40s and I'll be 43 this year. The winter months are getting much more difficult for me to just, when I leave the house, I get the
Yeah.
truck's warmed up and it's like you get in the truck, you're heading to the job, you're looking at the temperature on your dashboard and it's 8 degrees. You're like, oh man, it just makes the days a lot longer. Where when I was younger, I kind of liked that. I was like a
Yeah.
challenge, it was like, cool, we're gonna do this. But now it's getting harder and harder. And being in the shop here, it's kind of softened me.
Softened, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
You're an inside dog now.
yeah. I try to keep myself acclimated though. When it's really hot out, or even when it's cold in the winter, I'll make sure I spend a couple of days a week outside, just so I don't get too soft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always felt I never did a ton of outside work, but like I'd always schedule a job leading up to the fall and then get like a cold snap doing a deck or something. And I
Mhm.
remember on the cold days, like I would be so much more exhausted than normal weather. I cannot
Yeah.
imagine. And it'd be like for all right, I'm gonna work a week or two out in the cold. I just can't imagine doing an entire winter working outside every day.
Yeah.
Like it exhausts you.
Oh yeah.
It's like going fishing out on a boat where it's like you come home and you're like, I don't know why I'm so tired, but you're basically your body's like fighting to keep itself upright and you're just like uneasy the entire time. And I feel like that's how I am when I work out in the winter. Like you're just never comfortable. Your body is always working to try and
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah, I don't think that ever changes. And then for me, when it's cold in the winter, when I get home and I hit the warm house, it's like
Yeah.
lights out. Like
your face gets
Oh,
like
just
bright red and
yeah,
everything like starts burning and you're
yeah,
just like, all right, I'm going to sleep.
exactly. It's like a chore just to have dinner and take a shower at that point. You're like, oh, and then you got to do it all over. But I don't know. You get through it. You get used to it. You know.
Yeah.
You have camaraderie with the other guys you're working with. You know, everybody's out there just kind of bearing it together. So yeah, definitely not the best part, but I don't know. I still wouldn't trade it. I don't
Yeah.
mind. You know.
So, did you grow up in that area?
No, I grew up east of here, right on Lake Ontario, north of Syracuse, in a small town, Oswego, New York.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, I went to college there, and I met my who is my wife now at one of my fraternity parties, and she was from here. A long story short, she's 2 years older. She graduated, moved home shortly after I followed her out here, and yeah, the rest is history.
Nice.
Hmm.
So you what did you go to college for?
It was business and music as a guitar player, and
Oh,
I,
cool.
I actually didn't finish because I started working as a framing carpenter. My one of my good buddies growing up, he lived across the street from me. His father was a framer, so I was around it most of my life, and just started working summers and then on breaks, and bought a motorcycle. And eventually I'm like, I'm just going to keep working. I like this. And I talked to my father about it. He was like, oh, it's your life. Money's not everything. And I'm like, yeah. And I just kept going.
I
Yeah.
feel like you're like young enough and dumb enough and naive enough to be like, oh yeah, I can make this work.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you were working part-time framing and then summers and stuff like that. And so when you dropped out of school, assuming you dropped out of school, you just went full-time into framing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, back at home where you lived, or had you moved to Buffalo at that point?
Nope. Yeah. Back at home. I actually worked a couple of summers with the one of the tech teachers. He would put a framing crew together, and a bunch of us, which is odd to me now because we're talking the late '90s, and almost everyone on the job site, aside from the boss, was the same age as me. There was just
Yeah.
young people everywhere. Like all my buddies, we all framed. Some of them were plumbers, electricians, some were roofers, some were hanging drywall, and that just kind of petered out to where we are now. But I've been I've kind of done a lot of different things. I worked as a commercial carpenter for 5 years, and I loved that. But I came back to the residential side because it was just missing. I don't know whatever what the word would be, but it just wasn't intimate enough for me.
So were you in the union?
Nope, non-union. I've never
Okay.
been
I
in the union.
was gonna say in the union, all you're doing as carpenters like steel framed walls, like metal
Yeah,
stud, like gauge
yeah,
metal stud walls, and like drywall.
yeah. Yeah, I got really good at doing grid ceilings, and
Yeah, that too.
I still do them to this day. Basements, because it's like for me, it's you're in and out. It's easy money. It's good. It pays good. But yeah, I spent quite a few years up on stilts every day. So
That's nuts.
yeah,
So then what was your introduction? Obviously, you were doing it part-time, but like when you went full-time framing, what was the mindset and like where did you ever give any thought to what the future was going to be, or were you just in the moment?
I guess with those two choices, I would say in the moment,
Yeah.
I knew that I loved building. I loved being around everybody, the sounds, the saws, the smell of the wood, the sun, even like I said earlier, the winter months, it was fun to dig out with snow and then, find the wall plates and build them. So I
I
never
mean, I'm sure
really,
if you were with like all people your age too, like there's a huge social aspect to that.
yeah, it's like a sports team,
Yeah.
it's like being on a team. And then that just kind of slowly changed. Now we can't find the young guys like we used to. I mean, they're still there, but it's not like it was when I got started.
So at what point did you open up your own company?
The first time, 23, and I went into business with a friend, and he was actually quite a bit older than me, and that was fine and well.
And that was in Buffalo or at home?
Yep, in Buffalo. Um, we rolled together for a few years, and we had a big falling out, like most partnerships do, and then I went at it by myself for a while. Then we hit that recession, uh, whatever year that was, 2009, 10,
Yep.
somewhere in there. That was horrible. I had a crew, 8 guys back then. I was mid 20s, and the bottom just tanked. I had all these houses contracted, and then everybody pulled the plug, and I was scrambling to keep the guys busy who had, a wife and kids at home, and it was a nightmare.
So what were you like, framing additions and stuff at that point?
I tried to take whatever I could at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Bunch of acoustical ceilings.
yeah, it was tough. It was tough. So I actually ended up closing shop, and I went and worked as a lead carpenter for a builder that I had framed for many years. So he had an in-house framing crew, and we did everything. We were turnkey. So I did that for a few years, and that was good. And I just kind of went out there, and that didn't work. We got slow. I had to lay people off after a few years. My boss called me. He's like, I want to move you into the office. I'm going to have you do estimating. And it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I was late 20s. I'm like, wait a minute. I am not ready to do that. I want to be out here with the tool belt on, building houses still. So I jumped ship from that, and he never put a crew back together after that, actually, to this day. And I still talk
Really?
to him. Yeah. Yep.
Why do you think you were like, other than being young like, I get not wanting to be in an office, but like, what do you think really was driving that other than just being 29?
Just my passion for it.
Yeah.
I love to do it. Um, I've always kind of been a builder, I guess. My parents, they joke about it now when I tell them, I'm going to Rhode Island, I'm going to teach this, or do, Vegas, whatever it is. And my dad will always say, I always knew you were going to be a builder, because I would build models when I was, little, like 6, 7 years old, all the way through high school. And I still do,
Yeah.
big into RC airplanes. Like, that's still a hobby of mine, and it has been most of my life. So I've always kind of been drawn to assembling things and seeing a finished product, I guess.
I just somehow, I don't even know how, I was in bed last night and couldn't fall asleep. Being on Instagram, like cruising through that probably doesn't help.
Mm-mm.
But I came onto this page where this dude like rebuilds and assembles model cars, and like any of the like he strips them down, takes them apart, and then 3D prints whatever new like
That's
pieces he
cool.
needs, and then assembles them, paints them all. But like, it was probably a 7-minute long video of this dude. It was so sick. And I'm like, I could only watch one though, because I'm like, if I don't turn this off, I'm gonna watch all of the videos on this guy's feed. And
Yeah.
I intentionally didn't save it or anything, because I'm like, this will get me hooked.
Yeah.
But like, I've never had any interest in anything like that until I saw this guy do this, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I get it now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you fly RC planes?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Nice.
Yeah. Fun.
Are they like little nitro planes?
Yeah. I have nitro and electric. Yeah.
Have you seen the ones that they have like on a string?
Yeah.
Or
Control
like,
line.
yeah,
Yeah. I've had some of those years ago. It's been a long time, but yeah, I don't know if that's still really
I don't.
popular. I mean, the
Yeah,
club
so
I
they're
belong to, nobody has any control line stuff.
they're like ridiculously loud, and it's just the same noise,
Yeah.
like going in a circle.
Yeah.
So I know we'll get into this at some point, but I'm part of an enduro club, and two of the guys in the club, like him and his dad, are into vintage dirt bikes, and then these vintage like control line planes. And I had never seen one before, and on a day off I brought my daughter out to go riding, and they were there. Like, they either build them from scratch or they'll buy a kit,
Hmm.
and then they build them. And they were out there. It was like 3 generations of them flying these planes. And my daughter was asking about them. She's 10, so we went over and looked. And I mean, it's neat to see. I just can't imagine spinning around in a circle for that long, like
Yeah.
having that much fun. Like, now that they have actual remote control airplanes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But the guy I was talking to about it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I had seen one of these before, and like I described them as it's basically like a kite with a motorized RC plane on the end." And he got like super offended that that's how I described it. And I was like, I'm not trying to offend you, but like if I were to have this conversation with somebody and describe what you were doing, I feel like that's a pretty good description of what it is. It's
Yeah.
like you
I
have like the
agree.
little controllers, like you have a kite and the plane just goes around in a circle. And
Yep.
he got like all bent out of shape about it. I was like, dude, I'm not trying to like shit on your hobby here. I just try to describe what it is. But I hadn't seen them before that, and I thought, I mean, it's neat. Like they're definitely like a vintage thing.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Um,
Everybody gets so offended nowadays, don't they? It's
I know.
unbelievable.
I was like, I don't know. I didn't. I was trying to dumb it down as much as possible because I was like, I'm gonna explain this to our other daughter what it's like. I was like, I feel like that's a pretty good description, and he wasn't happy about it.
That's fun.
Um, so you're part of a club for that?
Yeah. Yeah. A little RC club.
Would you guys get together like once a month or something?
Well, they have a meeting once a month, but yeah, you can fly. Once you're a member, you can go whenever.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah.
They own property, or do you go somewhere?
Yeah, we have a field. It's actually cut into a big farmer's field, and it's an awesome setup because the way the infrastructure is and the roads around there, you have to drive into this field and up over this hill, so you don't even know it's back there,
Yeah,
and because of the distance from the roads, you can't even see the planes unless you're flying really high. So it's kind of cool because you're just in your own little world back there,
yeah.
you
How
know.
did you get into that?
I don't know. As far ago as I can remember, I just always was fascinated with flight and airplanes. And I think I remember the first model that I received, and it was a gift from my grandfather. And I was young because we still lived in Virginia Beach. Um, and it was a control line model like you're talking about. And it was a PT-19, and it had a little Cox .049 motor on it, and yeah, and I was too young for that, but my grandfather was a big airplane buff, and I don't know. I've always said it was just a genetic thing. It got
Yeah,
onto me, but to this day, if I see an airplane, I'll stop and look up and watch it. It's just one of those silly things I can't explain.
yeah.
It's cool though when you think about it.
It's
It's like
I feel like
airplane.
it's similar to my No, yeah. So we have horses that are in like across the street from us. There's a couple of horse farms, and we've been here for 5 years. And every day, my wife's like, "Oh, look, the horses are out." And it's like, "Yeah, Rach, like the horses have been out every single day." But it's just like it's like a little kid thing where you're like
Yeah,
excited to see horses every time you see them,
yeah,
even though they literally live right across the street
right,
from us.
yeah, yeah,
I had some RC cars growing up for a minute, like the Nitro RC cars. They were
yeah.
so much fun.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I remember getting into trouble with them on the road because like you get the little cars that go 60 miles an
oh
hour,
yeah, yeah. I
and
had some
like
of
on
those.
a residential road, you could
Yeah.
definitely get into some trouble with traffic with them.
Yeah. My son is into that a little. I mean, he was a lot more, but now he's 17. He's into different things, but he's got a whole bunch of RC trucks. They have rock crawlers now. I don't know if you've seen those, but
I've seen that, and people
yeah,
like get together for them,
yeah,
and like the photos they take of them.
they look
You have
real.
to, yeah, like you have. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's like a full size
Hmm.
car rock crawling.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty neat.
that's sick.
Yeah.
Uh, um, so when you went into business for yourself, you said that like you weren't sure really where you were going to take this, and that it was just living in the moment. Obviously this is something that you knew and you had a passion for, but like from the business perspective of things, did you ever give thought to like growth potential or this being the trade that will provide like a sustainable means of income for you?
Not really. It was just kind of there was always more work. There still is. There's so much work out there.
Yeah.
So, we're in a different landscape now in the industry where, you can there's less and less competition, so you can kind of pick and choose a little bit
Yeah.
more than I mean, it's a very cutthroat, competitive industry, and I actually hate that about this industry. But it's so hard to get everybody on the same page as far as all the other framing contractors and whatnot. But I never really, I never really looked too far ahead with any of it until recently. Now I do because I'm getting older and I'm into this so far. Like I can't just switch gears at
Yeah.
this point. And then in my 20s and 30s, I was raising a family. And things were all right. We were living, everything was fine. Kids weren't hungry. We had everything we needed. And I never really put a lot of thought into it because I still enjoyed going to work. I
Yeah.
think maybe if I had a job that provided financially that was amazing, but I hated what I did, I would maybe have thought about it that way. But
Yeah.
to me, it was always you get up, you put your boots on, and what are we building today? And I never really looked much past it.
I think that's the blessing and the curse of it. Like, you own your own business because you're a framer, and whatever happened, like, you probably reached a ceiling or the opportunity wasn't there. That it's like, the most next logical thing is to start my business, where at heart we don't have like the entrepreneurial spirit or the business acumen to have like some wildly successful business. We're carpenters, we're framers, and we're like making a go of it, which isn't like isn't really a recipe for success. Where
No,
it's like we look at it as like, yeah, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna put my boots on every day, and there's like a day rate there for me. But like, at what point is that going to change, or at what point do and I think the biggest issue there is that like it created an industry that revolves around that, and we are really limiting our worth to the end user when we view ourselves that way. So it's like, how do we expect people to pay more for our services when everyone who comes into this is basically like, well, I own my own company not because I want to, but because I kind of reached a cap elsewhere. So in order to make a little bit more money, I'm going to absorb overhead, and then I'm not going to make money for 10 years because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And then at that point, once my kids are on their way, I'll start wisening up and making a little bit of money. And it's almost too late at that point.
yeah. I think that's a huge topic, and in my opinion, it's kind of a generational thing that we walked ourselves into. I mean, if you go back, 30, 40 years ago, dad could change oil at the local mechanics garage and mom could wait tables at the diner, and you could
Yeah.
you could still go to Disney World and have two
Yep.
cars and a nice house. Like the world is just so expensive, and the United States where we live, we're such a fast food society. Like my neighbor's lawnmower broke. He probably needed to put a new pulley on it or something simple, and he goes
Spark
out,
plug.
yeah, goes and buys a new lawnmower. Like people don't even mow their own lawn anymore. It's
Yeah.
landscapers. They don't plow their driveway or shovel their driveway. It's like we're in a throwaway society and we want everything so fast, which I see with the quality of the skill set in the industry now. These younger generations, they grew up with the internet and YouTube. I did not. So if there was something I was interested in, I had to read about it or teach myself how to do it.
Yeah.
Now there's like this, and I see it all the time. There's this false sense of knowledge. They'll Google something, have an answer. They don't understand the answer, but they're able to spit it out of their mouth. So then they
Yeah.
feel smart, but really they don't understand what they've just regurgitated. And there's like decades of this now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's strange. So I don't really know how to get around that. Like,
So like, I feel like that directly relates to your business, especially. So, and for more context, like, I would always you like always basically have to be a subcontractor. You have to work for a contractor who's building a house. Like, it would be more difficult at you, and I think of this as like a large scale production trim company where like how many jobs are you going to get working directly to the customer who's building the house? Usually you're working for somebody else. And
Yes.
like therein lies the problem for me as to why I couldn't be a subcontractor, because at that point, it's almost like regardless of if you're at the top tier of subs or not, you kind of are depending on everyone else to sell the type of work that you can put in place.
Yeah.
Where if I go direct to consumer or direct to customer, I can sell whatever I want, whatever makes me the most amount of money or makes me the happiest. And I'm not relying on somebody else to set that level of expectation,
Right.
which is why I always thought it would be really hard to be a sub, because my program and the customer's program may be completely different than what Ryan wants to sell on his jobs. And you're basically like bound to these builders and what they're selling. And
Yeah.
like you probably have the capacity to offer something more or something more accurate or something that's better than what the status quo is. But like you're almost bound to what everyone else is doing and then
Mhm.
just competing.
Yeah, it's a race to the bottom. It's horrible. And then you get the job and you just race yourself out of work, right? Because time is money. So you land the job, and then it's how fast can I get it done? So the margins are good, and it's a vicious cycle, which is that's the part of the industry now at the age I'm at where I'm really starting to look around and noticing that. And
Yeah.
like you had mentioned, had you put any thought into the future? And back then I didn't, but it looked a lot. The landscape was totally different.
Yeah.
So now it's annoying. I don't know how else to put it. It's the builders are the only ones allowed to go to the bank, and
Mhm.
it's terrible. It's terrible. We'll price an 8,000 square foot house. That's custom, right, for a professional athlete, and there's a great number, great framing number on it, and the house is going to be several $1 million.
Yeah.
And day one, once you submit the bid, the builder's already asking you to take $20,000 off it. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot of money,
Mhm.
you know? And when you take the total cost of the build and you subtract the framing package, it's a very small percentage.
Yeah.
And that's why and I get why these young kids, it's not appealing. I see that. It's hard. It's hot outside, it's cold outside. They can go to Starbucks and start out at $20 an hour, and they don't have to do anything. They can be on their phone all day. So
Correct.
it's kind of a scary, bizarre, surreal landscape in this industry these days. So I don't and like roof cutters, most I'd say I'm getting 50% of the jobs I'm pricing.
Mhm.
50% of the people are telling me I'm crazy, I'm too expensive, and the other 50% love the number. They just want to know that the roof's going to go together good, and it's a burden that I can share or take off their shoulders. So for me, that's perfect because it's something I love to do, and it has value to the client because of those reasons. So,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
like
I,
that's the only like do you feel that there's other ways to differentiate yourself or set yourself apart within the framing industry that you're in right now other than like this roof cutters avenue?
um, small things. I mean,
Yeah.
we leave a very, as close to perfect framing job behind. But the problem is the average homeowner that the builder's contracted with doesn't really know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
They could walk into the same house framed by two different people and they wouldn't notice the things that I notice. So it's tough. It
No,
is.
it's like you gonna I like bring the drywaller in and ask if it's a good
Right.
framing
And the
job.
trim guy and the tile
Yeah.
guy, like the house is square, all the walls are, everything's perfect. They don't know that because at the end of the day, they got to save, 20 or $30,000 and put the in-ground pool in a year
Yeah.
sooner. So it's like, it's so frustrating. It
Yeah,
really is.
I mean, and that's one thing that I try and do with my subcontractors. And like, I don't know how much like with framing, it just seems like something that is getting like it's devalued more and more. Like people are putting less emphasis on why that should be important. And like putting in less expensive labor and just focusing on how quickly can we get it up and dried in and
Yeah.
get on to the next stage, where it's like,
Yeah.
this is like, other than the foundation, it's the structure of your home. Like, everything comes after this.
Yeah. Everything.
And it should be so much more important that, and
Yeah.
like, it doesn't need to be rushed, and there should be enough time and money budgeted and allocated towards that to allow these guys to not have to kill themselves to make a dollar.
Right. Yeah. It's a problem. And a lot of people are talking about it, and I haven't heard a good solution yet. There's no way to get everybody on the same page. We just lost a smaller a little framing job, and we were told we were twice the amount of the guy who did it. And it's like,
How?
is he using
Yeah.
nails? Like, how
Like,
is that
how?
even possible?
Especially when you know like what your margins are,
Yeah.
that like, how is that even possible? Like, I would be so nervous to hire somebody
Yeah.
based on that. Like, either somebody's completely ripping you off or somebody's just not doing what they have to do. But it's like, uh, I feel like you should know better.
I think a lot of it, Tyler, is greed, because
Yeah.
that same builder that just told us that last winter, and I shared this job on Instagram. We priced the job. We were too expensive. He hired, Joe Schmo. Well, they got to the second floor and everything was wrong. They couldn't do the roof. So here we come in to save the day. And we did, and it was great. We were there for a week. We got the rest of the framing done. We cleaned all the mess up that the other contractor left, and we cut and framed the roof, put the windows in. That's the same builder who told us we were twice as high as the
Same
last guy.
thing.
So it's like we come down and we bail you out,
Yeah.
and then like,
You didn't learn your lesson. See, that's what I don't understand. Like, as a builder or as a GC, how is your only outlet to bring value to the customer like cutting budget from somewhere?
right,
That like, I would feel that me being able to offer a supreme level of service would bring far more value than, like, yeah, sometimes we have to cut budgets. Like, I just had a conversation with a customer today, and I am well aware I sent this budget out and it is much higher than they wanted to spend. But I was like, let's get together and figure out some things that we can do to reduce the budget. But I'm like, I went to my mason and I was like, if we did this as a crawl space all the way across rather than full basement and then slab on grade where it's like two separate jobs, how much could that reduce? I'm not asking my mason to lower his price. Like,
right.
and then even for you, like, where at this point you've been in business for this long in a similar location, like, how are you establishing these relationships with your contractors that at this point they're still doing this shit to you? Like,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is what would be really the most frustrating to me.
it is.
Like, don't even waste my time at this point.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. And I hear the same
So
thing
how,
from
like,
even the lumber guys. We have multiple lumber yards around here,
yeah,
and that same builder will get a lumber price from two different lumber companies and never use the other guy. So it's like, why? Like, you're wasting people's time, first of all, and secondly, like, change is good. Give the other guy a chance.
yeah.
Like
It's
it,
also
it
like anyone can beat any price if they
yeah,
want to.
sure. It
Like,
depends on how bad you need the work in this
yeah,
industry. I mean, yeah, that's the problem with framers. They're the first ones to turn around and pull their pants down. Like, they got to
yeah.
keep the guys busy, and yeah, and then once you do that once, the builder's like, oh yeah, I can get
S-
these guys to come down, and that's more money in my pocket.
So how did you start landing work and like finding contractors to work for when you first went into business?
Just being around here, word of mouth mostly, and even like Instagram right now is a good mode of transportation, and pretty much all of the jobs and the revenue we get with roof cutters is it's 100 almost 100% online. We do some local stuff, but not as much as what we draw in from Instagram and our webpage.
Yeah, I've found that like most a lot, and this isn't like speaking to anyone locally in my area, but like a lot of times when you start interacting with those people, it winds up being a bit of smoke and mirrors, and you're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, and now I'm like locally in bed with somebody that I'm not in love being in bed with,
Yeah.
which also makes it tough. And you're like, damn, if I would have known this was this type of shit show, I never would have signed up for this.
Right. Right.
So and at this point now, like other roof cutters aside, so how many people do you have? Like, are you framing whole houses still, or really focusing more on the roofs?
No, we are still doing full houses. I'm trying to focus on just the roofs and really get that up in the air because I don't need a lot. You know,
Yeah,
if I took 15 or 20 in the door a year that were, big enough and worth doing, that would be fine. But it's easier to find work now because there's less people out there.
yeah,
Ten years ago, there was 20 other framing crews bidding the same job. Now it's three, two, three, maybe four. And the crew sizes are shrinking. You used to drive by, these subdivisions and there'd be crews with 8, 10, 12 guys. And now it's two,
yeah.
three, it's so the work is there. It's just timing, scheduling, which there really is no schedule. Not
So is
not
there
in
a
the framing world.
handful of contractors that you work for regularly?
Yeah,
They're like your bread and butter.
yeah, but they're even them. They're not. The loyalty is questionable these
And
days.
how is that if you've done right by them for so long? Like what's changing
I think
in like
the total cost on a build. So
so they're
it's
just looking to cut
yeah,
wherever they can.
they're set on whatever their cut is, their percentage, and now, the material cost is much different than it was several years ago. The same house that is $800,000 now was 350, 400 not that long ago. So yeah, they're used to living the life that they're living, and they're not going to take it out of their pocket.
The thing that is makes no sense in that statement is that like the cost of this has gone up for everyone, but now you're only putting that cost on your sub pool
Yeah,
rather than on the client that's gaining the equity in the home.
right.
Which if that's the cost and the cost just went up, then that should be transferred to the homeowner, to the customer, whoever's paying it. And I also would imagine that if you're a big custom home builder, you're more than likely cost plus, and you're probably making a margin on a higher framing package anyway. So it would probably behoove you to be selling a more expensive framing package because you're making a percentage on that anyway.
Agreed. Yeah,
So it really like it makes no sense to me.
me either. But a good way to look at that is we'll take a piece of plywood. What's a piece of plywood's $18 now. You get paid the same amount of money to install that piece of plywood, whether it's $5 a sheet or $55
Yeah.
a sheet. So, you know, it's so frustrating. It is.
Um,
I've been trying to figure it out, and I can't.
So are you at the point now where it's like, all right, I look at, and I'm at a similar point. I'm a little younger than you. I'm 38, but I'm at a similar point now where it's like, I understand my capacity and I understand how much work I can put out in a year. And I look at it from the perspective of like, if I can make considerable amount of money and work a lot less, I'm not at the point where I like 10, 15 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, I'll work twice as much.
Right.
But I'm at the point now where it's like I'm I'm fine with making the same amount if I'm working less and I'm getting to do things I want to do. Where
Absolutely.
like, 10 years ago, it's like, no, I'll use that spare time to work an extra one and a half.
Hmm.
Where it's like I'm at the point now where, yeah, I'll entertain leads that are paying me a higher rate and requiring less of me because it's affording me either downtime,
Yeah.
time
Time.
to work on the business, or time to do shit I enjoy rather
Yeah.
than putting equity into somebody else's pocket.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. Yeah. I won't work for peanuts. And when you're younger too, you kind of, as a younger man, we got something to prove, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, now I'm at the point where I don't care. I mean, I care so much that I don't care. Like, if I'm too much for you, then we weren't meant to work together.
Correct.
Like, I can't give you an education on what you're going to receive from me. If you can't see that, then you're not educated enough to even have a conversation with me. So for the perspectives that tell me, I'm too expensive and you're crazy, I say, good luck. I had a
Yeah.
guy last year was, shipping was, I don't know, it was like $5,000. And the dude's like, well, I'll just come and get it on my trailer. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's a 3-day drive. You got a hotel a couple nights and you got to eat all these meals. Oh, plus you got to put diesel in your truck probably 4 times.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm like, well, I mean,
Makes no sense.
what do you want me to do? These aren't Bluetooth roof packages. Like, they have to go from here to there.
Yeah.
If you want to come and get it, that's fine. I'll take shipping off. You're still spending the money. And now you've wasted 3 days of your life. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even
We
a
just
thought.
don't think that way.
Yeah.
And like, that's a huge issue that I run into, and I speak with people all the time, and like mistakes that I made myself over the years, where as a small business owner, or you start out by yourself, or you start out without much means and you do everything yourself, and you consider, hey, it's my time, it's free. But it even consider this guy who's going to go pick this up himself. And it's like, what if you had an employee that you went to go pay to do that? So now you have the cost of all of that, the wear and tear on the vehicle, and you're paying somebody to go do that, where it's like, now it's even less financially feasible, where we look at it from our time being free as an owner operator or a small business contractor, and like, our time is not free. That all costs money. That's all stuff that we should be charging our customers for. So that, like, the shipping costs money. If you send somebody to go pick it up, it costs money. It depends on if you want that money going in your business's pocket or the shipper's pocket, but it all costs money. You're not saving. Like, that shouldn't be your angle in the door with the customer, that I could go pick this up and free because it's my time.
Right. Yeah. That's how this industry is. It's so bizarre. I don't know.
I
It's
think that,
crazy.
like, framing as a whole, watching the framing industry, and like, that is like the blood and the guts of construction. I feel like if you want to get into construction, you think construction, it's like, all right, the framers in the summer, shirts off, framing, like a whole group of guys, the camaraderie and everything else out. And I remember watching Larry Hahn videos back in the
Oh yeah.
day, and
Yeah.
like, dude, how effortless he made all that shit look. And then, like, I told you when we met that I framed one roof one time, and I was
Yeah.
like an absolute fish out of water and tripping over everything and falling and hoses everywhere. And then you watch like these Larry Hahn videos by himself, circular saw, a hammer, hand nailing everything, and it's just like, it's like poetry in motion.
That's an art. Yeah, framing is an art for sure.
But
Any
it's
of the
so,
trades are.
I feel like that's the idea when you get into this, that it's like, this is what it's going to be like. And then when you're in it, you're like, it's not like this. It's not like this at all. But so, is that what can change at this point? Like, realistically, do you think, what could you do to make a change, or what impact can you have on the industry to change something like this?
I'm trying to. Well, I'm trying to teach now, so I'm sharing my knowledge. So I'm hoping to pass on something to someone, and it keeps me going with the meeting the people and interacting and the emails
Yeah.
and the DMs and all that. It's great, but as far as changing the way the industry kind of revolves, we would need some sort of a level playing field. So, in other words, framing is a minimum this much per square foot, and everyone would have to abide by that. That would be a way to make a change, but that's impossible. Like, how do you get all of these fly by nights who roll up in a dirty old work van, and a bunch of day laborers hop out and they're doing the job for a small percentage of
Yeah.
what it takes you and your overhead to operate. We lose a lot of work here locally to Amish. They come all the way up from the south towns, a 2 hour drive, and they work for peanuts. And it's frustrating to see because they go home and they don't, they live a totally different lifestyle. And it's,
Yeah.
we had a big builder account, 5, 6 years ago. We were 20 houses a year guaranteed, which was awesome. And they got the Amish in there for half the price. So that's why I say greed, because if we were making it work for so many years before, why couldn't they still make it work? Oh,
Yeah.
because they got an extra $20,000 or $30,000 per build to go in their own pocket. So it's like hooray for me and screw you, and it just happens over and over and over.
I often think that your lifestyle shouldn't dictate, like, I can see your lifestyle making you more expensive if that's the business that you want to run and like affecting your rates in that way. But having a lifestyle or a business that costs less money and then having that be like your competitive advantage to me does not really help the industry. And like for reference, that would be like me with a really low overhead going in and just price cutting everyone else because I have a lower overhead. Like, wouldn't it serve me and the industry better to compete from a numbers perspective with all of these people and be as much, if not more? I'd make more money myself and I'm not hurting the industry that way.
Agreed. Yeah. How do
instead
you do
instead of
that?
just keeping my bit. So like that, even thinking to you, it's like obviously you're teaching and you're putting a lot of knowledge out there as far as the practical application of roof cutting and carpentry. But
Hmm.
what about from like owning a framing business perspective and like where your pricing should be and how you should set yourself up to make money and what the sell should look like to the builders? How do you protect yourself from builders who are looking to hammer you on costs? Like,
Yeah.
I feel that you would serve the community so much, not so much better, but in almost a more impactful way if you couple what you're doing with that. Because now it's like, yeah, I'm teaching these guys how to do it, guys and girls, how to do it the right way, but also how to capture the cost of doing this the right way so that they're not just working for free.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. However, unfortunately, I feel like the room would just be full of other frustrated framing carpenters who are just getting beat up by the guys who didn't show up to take the
Yeah.
class. So it's like that's why JLC was great, because I had 100 and some students who were all super high focused and interested in what I was going to drop on them.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing environment to share some knowledge in. If I could have that same attention and audience, and we could talk about, listen, these homeowners and builders, like, enough's enough. We all have to agree on pricing, and that would be amazing. Like, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts small, and like you do have a platform and you do have a voice, and even like I understand your Instagram page is not revolved around that, but like having the conversation or having some content around that where it's like, hey, this is like if we want to grow the industry and we want to better ourselves and we want to elevate what we're doing, like we have to protect those who are coming after us, and it's not just giving them the literal tools and techniques to do that, but it's like, hey, the past 20 years, we have not created an environment that breeds profitability with our businesses, and we need to make a change, or else it really is like a race to the bottom, and start integrating that. And it's just crazy because like I look at my channel and what I started recording on the podcast, and then I started recording on like my midweek episodes, and what people call and have like set an hour aside to have a consulting call where for me, and it's not about how I paint. It's not about like how I install crown molding, what I do for kitchens, how I lay stuff out. It's all about like how are you modeling your business to make money as a small owner operator, and you don't understand a lot of times it's not necessarily about the MT Copeland model as much as like, hey, I'm a framer, how do I make money model, and what needs to change for you to be able to make money after me. I feel like that's so valuable, and it may not get like the hype and the views, but when I look at like who calls up and pays me to get on a phone call with me, it's the people who want to learn how to make money and want to
Yeah.
learn how to like create a viable, sustainable business. And I didn't ever realize how important that was. And like everyone you talk to is frustrated. Everyone in like, except for the people who are like, pulling all the strings, they're frustrated with how things are going. And I think that a lot of this has to be financed and backed by our customers and not our contractors and our subcontractors.
Yeah. I agree.
They're just
100%.
it's I never thought that our industry was that lucrative, and especially not lucrative enough that it's like I want to be going to do this shit for free, or
Right.
like if I'm going to do it for free, I'll do it for free on my house.
Right.
And like I don't even want to do
Yeah.
that, but
I
then
know.
like to be doing it on
Me either.
somebody else's house is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Or how about this? Develop meaningful relationships with your subs. And when you're a builder and you have a big house, walk through the door and you're pricing it out, give your framer the drawings. Let him give you a price before you go talk to the homeowner. Now you have a number that he needs to operate his business, and you can include that and plug it in with all your other numbers. And he doesn't have to, take one on the chin.
Yeah.
The homeowner will, like, hey, we thought you were going to be here, but instead you're here, which is fine. And then they go present the bid to the homeowner. Like, it's,
Build a smaller house. Like
yeah,
why are my guys
right. Why do we have to race, work overtime? Like,
The other
why?
thing is like, did it not get expensive for you to live as well?
Yeah,
It's like
that's why I keep saying
it didn't only just get expensive for the people who are building the new houses. It's like
no.
shit, things are
Yeah,
more expensive for me now, and like
right.
you just want to pawn that off on me. And
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that that's why it is really important to have that conversation with like your network and the people who surround you and the people who listen to the podcast and stuff like that, and like the people who read your articles, because they're all looking for you to show them how to cut a roof. But it doesn't matter, like you've proven that it doesn't matter how good of a roof cutter you are. It won't necessarily make you more money just by being a really great roof cutter. And like
right.
that's how I ran my business forever. If as long as I can do the work great enough, I'm going to make the money.
Yeah,
And I was like, I was kidding myself.
yeah,
Where it wasn't until I like demanded that I made the money, regardless of the execution, that I was able to make a little bit more money, and it wasn't so difficult. But I think that we focus too much on like the aptitude of the trades and the actual hands-on skill set,
hmm,
because we don't have any business acumen. Like we're
yeah.
not businessmen.
No, we're doers.
Yeah.
And
Um Go
this
ahead.
industry, the framing world, I'd mentioned earlier, it's almost a generational thing. And when I said that, I meant years ago, things weren't, the cost of things were much different. And people will say, well, it's all relevant. Yes and no. I mean, we still have builders working off pricing from the 90s. I mean, a gallon of gas was $1.20.
Yeah.
Like, it's ludicrous. And it was the type of people, the type of person that was doing it, I think kind of maybe pushed people away. I know my first few employers they were hardcore men. Like, I'm not going to say they were toxic because I hate that word. I think it's made up, but you knew when they were upset with you or you didn't do your job the way they wanted you to.
Yeah.
And
It's like now
nowadays,
you
when you
got to
do
be
that,
so kind to everyone.
oh, it's unbelievable.
I think about getting tattooed when I was like 23, when I first started getting tattooed, and you'd walk into a shop and it would be like heavy metal,
Yeah.
people smoking cigarettes, nobody like looking over at you and you not having any tattoos, and them just ignoring you until you spoke up. And I was like, damn, I am scared shitless in these places. And now I go to get tattooed and there's like a coffee machine. There's baked goods out. They're like, what do you want to listen to for music? And I'm like, I'm not scared getting tattooed right now. And it's like, it's good. But at the same time, it's just so much different. Like that's what has to be done in order
Yeah.
to be successful now.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
it's
definitely a
true.
different time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the builders that do make it and they, they turn it into a great success. Most of them, at least the ones here that I would hold in high regard or respect, were framing contractors at first. So,
Yeah.
you know, they took their jabs and they went in the trenches for so many years, and now it's their time to win. And I feel like that's their mentality when you slide a bid across the table and they're like, well, you're $20,000 too high, because it just feels like it's all about them. I
It's
can't
just
help but
crazy that they came from that. And then like it's like, all right, so you were in my position, what you have to pay your dues, like you have to earn this the hard
yeah.
way.
But then they'll
That seems
say,
silly
yeah,
to me.
oh, but we were framing for $3 a foot back then. Yeah, you were,
You
but
didn't have internet.
right,
Your
yeah,
house, like
yeah,
my first car cost more than your
yeah,
house.
right, exactly.
Um yeah, it doesn't equate.
No,
It's a different world now, and it does sadden me to see, like what the future is. And I think that things are changing, but I do believe that we we need to focus on protecting ourselves and protecting those people who were teaching all the hands-on skills,
yeah,
to make sure that, and like I want everyone to make money. Like
yeah, yeah. Me too.
I don't want my subs to bear the cost of a customer that doesn't want to make money.
Right.
Maybe we reduce the scope, and their contract package is not quite as much as what they thought it was going to be. But I
Hmm.
don't want them putting work in place for a lower dollar amount. At that point, like I'm just burning my relationship with my sub.
Right.
I feel
Exactly.
badly when I have somebody price something two times and we're gonna do the job because I'm like, shit, sorry, you have to price this again.
Yeah. Yeah. The cuts
But
should not be with the labor. You
yeah,
can't go to the grocery store and haggle over a gallon of milk. I mean, the price is the price.
yeah,
If you don't
that's
like
a
it, go to the next store. Maybe it's a few cents cheaper. But it always,
um,
and the framers are the ones that I feel like get beat up the most. I just
yeah, I
been
feel like
through it so many times.
it's a big number at the beginning of the job, and like people, it like a
Yeah.
frame is a frame. Everyone, it's all the people on the back end that are gonna make it beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's like, do you know how much better your project would be when they come in, the trim guys come in, the cabinet guys, the tile guys, the drywallers come in, and you made their life so much easier. Like your product, your experience is going to be so much better throughout the whole duration of that project.
Yeah. Good framing never gets covered up.
Yeah,
See it through.
absolutely.
See it through everything. Paint, trim,
Um,
flooring.
it's funny, like I learned that early on where I had a buddy of mine who was doing some work, and he's like, "Give me your drywaller's number." I like sent him out there, and my buddy was like, "I thought they were like your drywallers were going to give me a good price." And I got a hold of my drywaller. He's like, "Dude, he framed all that shit himself. Do you know how much work it's going to take to make me make it look good?" And like he obviously just went with a less expensive drywaller, and then I go in after it's done. I'm like, "Oh yeah, this looks like shit."
Yeah.
And like my other drywaller basically accounted for the bad framing and how much work they would have to put in place to make it look right. And that's why the drywaller was more money. But like in your situation, that drywaller's not getting an opportunity to do that. So on a whole house, they're not going to put all this extra work in for nothing. They're just going to be like, oh, that's the framer's fault. And then
Right.
the next guy who comes along, that's the framer's fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it just like keeps going, and everyone
Yeah.
keeps making excuses as to why it is the way it is.
Well, there's a stigma attached to the whole industry. I think construction worker. I hate that term. You know, my dad works in construction. Well, what does he do?
Yeah.
Is he a mason? Is he an electrician? Is he a carpenter? Does he pour
Flagger.
foundation? A flagger? Right. Like people don't. It's just because they don't know. I mean, they really don't. I've been married. I've been with my wife since 1999, and she really doesn't even know what I do.
Yeah.
She knows, but she's never come out there and done it. So how do you expect people to know? But there is a stigma with that, and they push higher education and college. I wish they would talk about trade schools and vocational schools more, because we're coming up here pretty quick. Like I would say the next 5 years where it'll cost you $1,000 to have a plumber come over and fix your sink because
Yeah.
there's not
I
going to
mean,
be
I
anybody
feel
to
like
call.
we're there.
We're
Like,
get, we're getting yeah. I
you
mean
know?
it's changed yeah for sure, but we're still I'm told we're too expensive all the time still, and it's like
Yeah.
you
That's
just
why
want to you want to show them your overhead and be like,
we
how am
have
I
to
too
do
expensive?
a better job of like we've created the narrative and we've really gotten a lot of attention and eyes on the trades, and now it's like, all right, let's actually make this a place that people can come make a healthy living
Yeah,
and not struggle through in order to maintain them there. I had heard early on in my career that somebody's like, all right, if you want to be a framer, be a finished carpenter first to like understand what a bad frame can do to you.
mhm.
And I always was like, oh, you're going to start at the rough stage and then you'll work your way inside and be like a finish, or a cabinet
Yeah,
set. It's like, no, if you want to frame, do all that shit first.
yeah,
And then you'll realize how much it actually matters. And then when
yeah,
you go to frame, all those little things where you're just like, nail it off, doesn't matter. Don't
yeah.
look through, like that
Well,
all makes a difference. And I always thought that
I
that was a
love
pretty
trimming.
neat saying.
Yeah. Well, that's all. That's just comes down to integrity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, being proud of what you're doing and doing it with purpose. People lack that in today's world. It's just throw it out, get another one. I only have to be this good. That's all I'm getting paid for. Those are things
Yeah.
people will say. Looks good for my house. Like if you get a guy and he gives you a price and it's a good price, and then you knock his number down so he gets the job. Now he shows up to the job and he already has a bad attitude.
Yeah.
So it's like none of it makes sense to me. Like give the guy what he's asking to do the job, work with him, create a lasting relationship that benefits both of you. But the problem is as soon as you're done and you've had enough, there's someone right behind you in line, and
Yeah.
it just keeps going and going and going.
it's it's funny. I just recorded a podcast earlier today, somewhat on that notion where it's like if we were doing the jobs that we were making the rate that we felt appropriate, how much better of an experience that would be for us and for the end user. Because now it's like, okay, so I'm going to frame your house and you're getting it at a reduced rate. I'm walking into that job already annoyed. I'm
Yeah,
not going to be fixing stuff that I need to fix. When you ask to make a change, I'm either going to nail you at the change order, try and recoup some of those costs, or I'm just going to be like, no, I'm not doing it. I don't have the time.
yeah,
Where if you just paid me my necessary rate, your job's going to be buttoned up. It's going to be 100%, 110%. And then when you ask me to make a change, I might not even charge you for that because I'm like, you were a great customer. You were respectful. You were understanding. And I'm just going to do it while I'm here because I already made my rate. And I'm like, that just seems like a much better world to live in. And I'm not saying a rate that makes us rich, but just getting paid
right.
what we deserve,
Yeah,
like, seems like it's a much better world that we can live in.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's the end user, the homeowners, and I almost feel bad saying this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I feel like the homeowners have been getting more for their money for a long time
Yeah,
than they should have. I mean,
I agree.
like, and now today's market, the prices reflected because the homeowners now the customers for the framing have changed because you can't build
Yep.
the 2,600 square foot house for $300,000 anymore. So it's removed a lot of
But
people.
it is, but it's also not like that money's going in our pocket.
No,
It's like, all right, so you're paying a little bit more, but it's not a little bit more to us.
no,
It's just a little
yeah,
bit more for everything,
right,
which is a bummer.
yeah.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I did quickly want to ask you if you've been riding dirt bikes lately.
I got one ripped apart. My son's rebuilding. It's a 96 or 97 KX 125. So he had the top end all together, and he was getting the power valve and all that hooked up, and a little circlip went flying across the
Ah,
garage.
no.
Guys, so we're on our hands and knees, flashlights. I go, we're never going to find this. So we had to order, a 50-cent part,
and
Or,
wait for it.
well, it's actually it'll be here tomorrow, according to
As
the.
long as it didn't, dude, I always fear that it's gonna go down into the bottom end, and I'm like,
Oh yeah,
if it does, am I just taking the risk of just like hoping that thing gets ground up in there?
shooting it out the tailpipe. Yeah. Oh, we've definitely done that. There's a cool vintage race not far from here in July. I'm going to do with my buddy, and the bike's got to be 2000 and older, so it should be a good time.
Nice.
I'm gonna take my son's 125. He's got an RM. It's beautiful. We've rebuilt it. It's like, yeah, it's awesome.
And both your bikes are 125s?
No, the KTM's a 250. That
Oh, nice.
SX, that thing's, yeah, scary.
Yeah.
That bike actually scares me. I watch my son on it, and I'm like, man, you're good, dude.
It's
Like,
a two-stroke SX.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Mixing
cool.
gas and hauling ass, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I
The four strokes are really awesome, super impressive. They just, I'm leery of them because like I can rip a two stroke apart and rebuild it
yeah,
pretty
there's a lot to
confidently.
go wrong.
Four strokes are a whole different animal.
Yeah, and then it's like everything's the if you take care of them, they'll last longer, but like the
Hmm.
maintenance costs are higher.
Yeah,
They are more maintenance. The two stroke is like you can beat them up. In worst case, you blow it up. It's not that much
yeah,
money.
not that much at all.
Um, and I like the older two strokes. You on a 125, you have to be making that thing sing.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is, but 125s. That was always my favorite size, like my
Yeah.
whole life. Once I got on one in my teen years, and I remember watching, like McGrath and all them. Like the
Hmm.
125 class was always the most exciting.
Oh, dude,
The
there's
250s would come out and like they could go faster in the straightaways, but the jumps and the turns, like the 125s, were just like the perfect size bike.
Dude, they're just like full throttle feathering power with the clutch the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. Just staying on the
Um,
pipe, riding the pipe the whole way. Like,
yeah, I have a buddy who got a 125. He was like riding a 250 four stroke and they got a 125 and was like insanely fast on it. But I got on it once and I'm like, just feels so small. Even when you pull
yeah.
the pistons on them, I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's insane
Yeah, they're
how
like
much
that big.
power these things make. Like my daughter has a KX65, and you pull the
Nice.
piston on that. I'm like, this is like a lawn or like a chainsaw piston,
Mm-hmm.
and this 65 will rip with
Oh,
me on
rip.
it.
Yeah,
Like
rip. Yeah.
the like small bore bikes are insane and so much fun to even just like ride with people on, because even if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not going fast, like there's a lot of sand near us, even if you're not going fast, you sound like you could be like a supercross racer on
Right?
TV because they're
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
fully wicked the whole
Yeah.
time.
They just hit different. I agree.
Yeah,
The four strokes are cool, though. They're so torquey. Like
yeah,
the power's just there. It's always right there. It's
it
nuts.
is. They
You have to ride a different rider. I think like you take a guy who's good on a two stroker and you throw him on a four stroke, he's just a better dirt bike rider. You
That's what
take
I think personally.
Oh,
Like
for sure, I see
you
it when
can't
we're at the track.
going
Yeah, if you
back
go
the
the
other
other
way
way,
is so
oh yeah, so hard. Because you
it's
have
like
to really ride a two stroke. You're shifting because all your power's in the pipe.
yeah.
It's not the four stroke. It's not
And
the same
also
thing.
they're just like so sketchy. They're just not planted. They're so I
Oh
have a
yeah,
300 two stroke and a 354 stroke that are the same year, the same frame, same suspension, everything. And like I started on the two stroke and got like rode that a ton, got pretty fast on that, got the four stroke, hated it, but like could immediately ride it.
oh
Like
yeah,
just get on it and ride it fast.
yeah.
And then I was like, I want to like this bike more. So I spent a considerable amount of time on the four stroke and I got back on the two stroke and literally like could not ride it because it's so sketchy. Like they're just all over the place. They kind of go where you want them to. And I'm like, I don't like you. If you want to if I want to get back on my two stroke, I have to ride it like a half a dozen times before I don't feel like I'm going to die riding it. It
Yeah.
just like they're so scared, but then once you get on it, they're so much fun because it's like they're all over the place and you ride them so loose that you're kind of like, yeah, this is a lot of fun.
It's more of
The
a rhythm. That's how I think of it.
Oh yeah,
The two
the
stroke.
four stroke you could just get on and like you can hammer them. They never
Yeah.
have too much. Like they're fast as hell, but it's not. that dangerous. Like you just use the power as you need it. It's so
Right.
linear.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
It
where
is.
the
It's linear. That's a good way
yeah,
to put it.
the two strokes. But I like both. I like both. They're
I
fun.
do too. I've never had like a bigger four stroke. I've had smaller ones years ago, but so
Yeah.
going from a two stroke to a four stroke for me, it's just I haven't ridden one long enough. So
Hmm.
when I get on like some of my buddies have them and they get on a 450, you're like, man, it's a big bike, but I ride it and I'm like, this isn't fun,
Dude,
right?
they seem slow.
But then I jump back on the 252 stroke, and I'm like, all right. But then I can't catch up to the guy in the 450. And I'm like, why didn't it feel that way when I was riding
I
it?
know.
He knows how to ride it, and it's just you're using your ears more, I think, and the feel on a two stroke. The four stroke, the power is just there through all of the gears. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
different, totally different.
I mean, even guys like a lot of guys race with like earplugs in now, but like on a two stroke you can't
No,
because you need to actually hear the bike and like
yeah,
where you want to be
yeah,
in the power.
yeah,
But yeah, like I remember first getting on a four stroke and everyone's like they're not exciting. Um, but like they the four like I would never 450. I'm pretty sure that like unless you're a professional, there's no need to have a
yeah.
450.
That's a
Like
lot of bike.
it's a lot of bike. They tire
Yeah,
you out so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely the thing I like about the four stroke 250. I have a 350. Is that like what's fun about them? The power is very linear, but you can hammer them,
Hmm.
which like if I went on my 300 or like a 250 SX like two stroke and went
Yeah.
to hammer it like I do my four stroke, the bike would be out
Oh, you'd
from
loop it.
underneath
Oh,
me.
yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
absolutely. So like that is
yeah,
kind of what's fun about the four stroke is that you get on there and you can grab a handful of throttle and it's never
yeah,
like that. So you do feel like you're beating the shit out of the bike where like I get on my 300 in the woods and it's just like it's like riding a 450. It's just little throttle inputs.
yeah. Does
And
that
I'm
have
like,
mapping and all that and launch
yeah,
control? Yeah, isn't that crazy? That's
yeah,
crazy.
it is nuts.
That's
I want to
nuts.
get like just a kickstart like 250 race bike like
Yeah,
motocross bike that has
yeah,
like just I want to I've been trying to look for like a left like a older carbed one that's not too beat up.
yeah,
It'll just like you could keep forever and it'll be a vintage bike one day.
yeah.
And you can always get replaced. But I feel like I'm too
Suzuki, I think they're the only ones that doesn't have the E start.
yeah. Yamaha still makes like the YZ is
Yeah, they're
still
still
like you can
two
get a
strokes.
kickstart two
Yeah,
stroke.
yeah.
I just it's hard to switch frames too at that point if you're
You're
like
what are you
trying to
riding? A
ride.
gas,
I
gas?
gas so yeah, KTM,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is like a little bigger cockpit and frame than like the
Hmm.
YZ. I feel like you're either or. You're either Austrian or like a Jap bike.
Yeah, yeah. They are totally different. Totally
Um
different.
but one day just don't I've always said I want to get a 125 too, just like for fun.
Oh, that's my favorite. It was
Yeah.
funny. We went to Denver last year. My wife and I took our son. It was his birthday present. So we went to Supercross in Denver. It was
Yeah.
oh my god, it was amazing. But we're sitting there. I got a couple pops in me at this point, and I swear I hear a two stroke. But I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no two strokes, right? There was a two stroke out there. There's this guy. I follow him on Instagram. I can't think of his name,
Is
but he
he
is
is in the 250 class or 450?
250, and he's like unsponsored. As we were walking around, we bought like the VIP tickets so we could walk
Yeah.
around and see all the stuff. And there was this trailer and a
Is he on a
van.
YZ?
Yeah,
Yeah, I know who
yeah,
you're talking about. He raced a bunch. He made the main a couple of times.
yeah, dude, he ripped. It was
Yeah,
awesome. Once I found him, like I was watching, and all the bikes kind of looked the same. And then I saw the big pipe, and I'm like, holy shit, it is a two stroke. And he did
yeah.
pretty good.
I forget his name. He did a few rounds of Supercross last year, and
Yeah,
he did do well. Yeah, he built that. But it's crazy, like how much work they put into that two stroke to try and
yeah,
I feel like they should bring like the two stroke class. It's just not fair to have them try and compete.
with the four strokes.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
it's not even close. They
yeah,
just
because the tracks are even designed different now for the four stroke, so it's
oh
not even
yeah,
really conducive for the power bands on a two stroke.
dude, they
So
come
it's
out of a corner and like they're at a standstill and then just like whomp and will
Yeah.
like double and triple something. And on the two stroke, it's
Yeah.
like you have to hit that corner full speed, never touch
Yeah.
your brakes, and
Yeah.
then carry enough momentum to launch over that.
Otherwise, you're just going to leave a big rut and you'll still be in the corner.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
would just spinning your wheel the entire, even like I mean, it's all starts on that too, and like they just can't
Yeah.
compete on the starts. So then
No.
they're trying to work their way up from the back of the pack. At that point, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun to
But yeah,
watch, though.
yeah, it is. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you had me. Glad to be here for
Yeah,
sure.
I'm glad we bumped into each other at JLC. I know that I reached out to you a few weeks ago about a job that I was looking at. I sent you a quick question. I was like, "Damn, he
Oh,
must be
yeah.
busy. He didn't text me back." And then I get this like really nice drawing and like explanation of what's going on. I was like, "This is way more than I was asking for," but like super appreciative of it. I
Oh,
feel
no
like
problem.
that's indicative of who you are and what you're doing. And I know I don't know you that well, but just the fact that like you took the time
Yeah,
to
you
do
caught me.
that, like,
I was sitting at my desk figuring a roof out, so it worked out perfect.
yeah, well, I appreciate it. For anyone who wants to know more about you, find out who you are, what you do, where's the best way to get a hold of you, or if you want to order a roof?
If you want to order a roof, go to my website. That's www.roofcutters.com. And you can find me on Instagram at roofslayer2681.
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah, check
Well,
it out.
I appreciate your time. Anything that you want to touch on or say that we didn't get a chance to or that I didn't ask?
No,
No?
no,
All
it
set?
was pretty good. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
All right, guys and girls. So you heard it. We had Ryan Smith. Roof Slayer is his Instagram account. His website is www.roofcutters.com. Again, I got to meet him. We actually went out to dinner. Mike from Greenside set up a dinner. Doug was with us, and we went out to dinner with him. And it was so funny because Ryan's a really big guy. Like, could be a very intimidating figure. Like I feel like I'm a pretty big guy, and he definitely makes me look like I am a small guy. But he was sitting at dinner like pretty quiet, and you could tell like a little timid and a little nervous. And then he was like, "I'm just really nervous about my speeches tomorrow, like my presentations. I don't know how they're going to go. I don't know who's going to be here." And I was like, "Dude, people are coming to this because they want to see you. Like they want to know what you do. They're excited to see you. Like just continue to do what you're doing." I don't think that I helped him get past that at all, but I saw him the next day after one of his presentations, and you could tell he had like that high where he's like, "Damn, that went well." And I asked him, he said, "Yeah, it went really well." But really nice, genuine guy. Um, it's a shame to hear the struggles of what goes on within the industry, but it is something that I'm sure a lot of you guys and girls can relate to, and a lot of what I'm doing with my consulting calls and helping business owners try and squash really what is the standard within the industry. I think that it's good to talk about, and it's good to shed some light on that. And I don't want it to be like a huge downer. But at the end of the day, like it's something that really needs to be addressed, and it's something that we all need to do our part. And we think that it's just, there's nothing that can be done, and it's up to everyone else. But I do feel at the end of the day that like we can each do our little part, and we can either educate our customers, we can educate our listeners, we can educate our employees, people who come to ask us uh, to show them something within our trade, be like, "Hey, listen, I'm teaching you this, but I also want to teach you a little bit about the business end and what we need to change and the trends I see within the industry." And I think that that's going to help elevate everyone and uphold that integrity for uh, the next generation. I think that that's up to us as well. So I hope you all enjoyed the podcast. What else do we have going on here? I guess that's about it. I'm gonna get you some ads coming in here, and I appreciate you all following along. You'll have Nick back here next week, and it'll be a regular podcast recording. All right, guys, thanks.